wipes, you can just use these. The
pens that we practiced with yesterday.
We will sanitize that for you.
Yeah, but I'm not going to do it till...
You're going to practice on it, so we don't want to sanitize while you're still practicing on a mannequin head.
Oh, we're going to have practice time this morning.
Well, if you don't have yours till 1, you'll have from 12 to 1 to be able to. Okay. So what you'll do is make sure they don't have any makeup on. So take your wipes.
Can you see okay?
Yeah. Oh, I can still show them how to use a little bit on the tinkle.
It still looks so good.
Yeah, so this, you got yours done in February, right? So
February
this is
22nd.
just, look at you, so I was like 2 weeks pregnant. I don't even know if I knew. Did I just know?
You told me.
You knew before my husband.
Right, because you were going to tell him at Disneyland.
And I was going to say, too, if they have more oily skin, you can use wood change them.
Okay. You told her before your husband?
Yes, because I found out I was pregnant, and then I knew we were going to Disneyland, and I wanted to tell him at a really stress-free moment in time.
So at Disneyland?
So Disneyland. So you guys can see, if you guys want to come closer.
You can even use the magnifying. You can see really good.
The shape is still there, but her strokes have kind of come out, so you can see like there is a stroke that still stayed in. What I'm going to do is basically do the whole brow over again.
I don't know if you even need this light, Katrina.
Oh no, I don't need this.
Should I move that out of the way then?
I like the light's fine, but we can move it if it's in the way for someone else. Can you guys see that?
Can you show us on this? Oh,
yeah. So let me find, like, so right there at the bulb you can see like there's a little stroke still in there. And this has been a year, but what's amazing to me is that when you look at her when she's come in, the shape is still really solid. So
the strokes kind of disappear, but the
strokes come out, but the shape is still.
You can see the strokes really good. You can see them. Even like right here in the front, you can see her bulb really good.
Yeah.
And over here too, I can see these ones really good.
So it's just a faded like shape.
Yeah, which is nice. So what we'll do today is make all the strokes nice and clean and crisp. If you guys want to move this, I'll just turn this light up.
Yeah, you can scoot it all the way down.
That's fine. So, what is our first step in shaping?
Center line.
Center line. Awesome. Do you have a paper towel?
Actually, it's over there. If you want to hand me the paper towel so I'm not walking all over everyone.
So I'm going to sharpen my pencil and you want to make sure when you're doing your shapes that your pencil is really, really sharp, because once you see it starting to, once you kind of have the thicker lines and it's getting more frustrating, there's just black everywhere, you'll probably look and see you have a dull pencil. And that's a huge problem when it comes to shaping. So remember, you just kind of shave the top. Can you guys see this again? Do you remember how to do this?
So when she says really sharp, she means like
Can you guys
really
see
skinny.
how fine that is? It's not like there's no like blunt line tip to it. So we find her center line. I personally I just use my eyes, but you can go through and we can use the dental floss again. And then I can talk through the shaping, but then once I'm microblading, I don't really talk very much, so Melanie will be my...
Yeah.
So you can go through, and she's very... Elisa's just... You're just so beautiful.
Symmetrical.
See, even her teeth, when she smiled, her teeth are straight, right in the middle. You know that Tom Cruise, his teeth are not?
No, because he was missing some.
I don't know what happened. If you guys ever look at Tom Cruise, it's like one of his front teeth is in the center.
Yeah.
You know, you've seen that. You can't unsee it.
Yeah, it's because if you look at his younger pictures, you can tell like one of his, or two of them didn't grow in.
So he has one front tooth right in the middle?
Well, he has two front
Almost.
teeth, but they're
shifted
Right.
instead of the line being in the middle.
I think he's missing like his eye teeth or these ones.
Okay, so this is like right, I'm going to use this as my center line. You can go through, and when you take it and squish, you can see that the skin is going right into the middle. And so then, oh, and then I need micro swabs. That's the only thing I think I have.
It's
We have our micro swab.
there you go. Perfect.
Thank you. So I have, Melanie has like, she has that tray. I have, I actually have one of my old hair trays that was just a solid surface and it actually had a bowl. But I'll wrap that up and I just have a flat surface usually right next to me at my own home salon and set up.
Well, I had that other. I actually have two of those because I have my
think I have
round
the
one.
same one.
Yeah, and then that.
So
black
then
one.
next step is
So you decide, what are they called? The bowl blinds? What do you call them?
where your brows start.
Just the
Yeah,
front.
the front of the brow.
When you're all looking for a fancy word.
The front lines. We're on the front lines now. What's your name again?
Elisa.
Elisa. We're on the front lines, Elisa.
And
Doing
so
great.
remember,
I got a football.
you'll want to make sure to go, you don't, when you put it on here, you don't want to go to the side, you want to go above it.
Can
So
you
then-
explain what you're saying? with
Yeah.
that?
So, okay, so when I put this on, if I'm going on the side,
Oh,
my
gotcha.
line is different
Mhm.
versus if I'm going straight up,
Okay.
then it's right where I'm meant to be. So, because if you did this on this side, and then you came here and did it on this side, it would have shifted your
So
whole
where'd
brow.
you do it at when you first
She
did
just
it?
pulls it down lower so it goes
I
right
pull
at
it
the top.
lower
of
so
the
that
swab.
way it's right on top of the
Mhm.
Microsoft.
Okay, I thought you were doing it from the sides.
And then what I'll do is use our measuring caliper. And remember, you can sharpen it, or you can put the color on it from the side of your pen. And so that way, when you're measuring, you
don't
can leave
use
little
the
marks.
front because it
Yeah.
will ruin your tip.
Don't use this because you just spent a lot of time sharpening it. So I'll go through and I'll measure. And so you can see like her nose on this side is a little bit closer in. And seeing as since I can see her old shape, that makes it so it starts exactly where it did last time too. So that's why these little measuring tools are so important, because if you were to, and it's just barely a difference, but it does make a huge difference when it comes to eyebrows. Even that tiny consistency would change a big amount of the eyebrow. So that's where you can go through and drag it up and make your lines. And so I'll erase this line because if I liked this line better, I could have used this line and then brought this one in a little bit. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Mhm.
Okay. So then what I'll do is I'll take my micro swab and keep it pretty clean at this beginning part, because the cleaner you can keep your canvas client, the cleaner you can keep it, the easier it's going to be for you to know what you're doing. So here's my first two spots. So what's the next step? The arch or the end?
The end.
The end. Because you can't do your arch unless you have an end. You wouldn't have somewhere to toggle if you didn't have that, the end spot. So again, here's my microphone. So I go from the outer edge of the nose to the outer edge of the eye. And I just make a slight little mark right there. And I think I do mine. People are always wondering, do you do it up and down? I believe mine is at an angle. Just because then by the time I am reaching there, I know where my flat surface needs to be. So on this side, you'll do that again. So the corner of her nose to the corner of her eye. And then I extend these. Once I have my marks in, I really like to go through and extend them, because once you start making the shape over and over again, sometimes you can lose these marks, and you don't want to lose these marks of like their genetics. You know how we were saying like their bone structure is going to tell you where the brow can lay, where their arch is. So now we go, what's our next step?
Arch.
And we use this toggle thing. And which direction does the
Small sides on the tail.
Tail.
on the tail? So this way?
No.
Yeah. Your buddy's watching.
Trick question.
When nobody fails for the trick.
So, again, I have used the edge of my pen and I just mark it right there and I mark it on both sides. So I will go through, and again, remember on here, if you were to toggle up here, it would make a different, it would end up not being even on both sides. So I like to try and pick the middle of like what I would think the brow is and toggle back and forth. And so you can see that that hits on the right spot. And let's
That's
see
the front and the back lines.
if this is, and so you can see this is like, sometimes I feel like so then you can see like with this is where you can change the lines. Is with this one, I like the way her tail is on this side better. And I use the measurements from the nose, but this is where you can alter it a little bit. I like the one on this side because we've already done it, so this is a little bit of, you know, without a client, you would have to make the decision without the eyebrow
Is this one
lines.
shorter or longer?
This one is shorter, and I wouldn't, you know, we chose not to make her eyebrows quite as long on her first visit. And so you can see, then we'll make a new line right here before we do the arch. So the way I made that line is I toggled on this side and I found where the distance would be, and I do my arch right there. But so when you're toggling, this doesn't move, and so now I'll toggle on this side, and where it lands is where I want my end to be. So that's where this line came from. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So this was my
Can you
measurement.
turn down the heat? Is it hot in here? Like,
It was cold at first, and now it's hot.
So then now we have her new end. And then again, I'll go up and then raise your eyebrows for me. And you can see how that hits her arch perfectly. So then again, what I'll do is I like to go through. And so now I have this line on the end that I'm going to erase. So that way there's no distractions on what I'm doing. So now we have her 3 lines. And the next part is that second page in the manual where we start drawing the actual shape of the brow. Elisa, so I ask my clients, you hold this for me.
Okay.
She'll hold my dental floss, so if you have your client, they're usually happy to hold it while you draw on it. I used to try and do it by myself, but it took me a long time. Thank you. So then we go through and we do the base, right? So the way you find the base of the brow is you'll put your pinkies on there because you want to make sure that you're not going below this brow bone. So when you feel it on your own face, you can see that you've got that brow bone. So usually it's a nice pinky, like right where your pinky is, that's where you're gonna have your brow start. And I love to do the dental floss right here. And so hers faded a little bit, and we're gonna bring this one down and clean this one up. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like this part came down a little bit more. And then we'll do the top. So this is the one where most students are like, where do I do the top at? This is based on the thickness of the brow that your client is going to potentially want, because a lot of clients don't have their brows starting right where, like a lot of times you're microblading in, you're creating their bulb for them. So that's when you need to decide how tall it's going to be. And hers are a pretty like average size. They're not too big or too, like they're not super petite, and they're not also a big brow. So what I'll do is, I guess since I have that up there, sometimes what I'll do is move this out of the way